holding a track at Chullin Ch. The name of the chapter is Gid Hanasheh, and we are holding in page p.98 A1. The Gemara says, Beveitza sefroyach, with an unhatched egg that contains a chick, that it's not nullified since it has the chick inside it. Once a chick forms inside an egg, it imparts taste like a meat. The same way that meat would impart a flavor, the egg with the chick inside would also impart a taste.
Can I just ask something? It seems interesting, almost the chiddush, that the chick is inside the shell, that even with the shell surrounding
that's what they're trying to. That's the point he's trying to make. At this point, it is no longer treated as an egg, but as a bird.
This is an
and
egg,
it is prohibited regardless of whether it is an egg of a non-kosher or kosher bird.
But is this is an egg that's already been laid, or is this an egg inside the bird that we're shechting?
No, an egg that was mixed with other eggs. So it has to be.
I got it. Yeah, I know the problem.
Aval tamei aloi. But in the case of non-kosher bird's egg that does not contain a chick, Rav Nachman agrees that it does not impart a flavor and requires nullification. So if you had an egg of a non-kosher bird, let's say an egg of an eagle, and this egg was mixed with the egg of the hen, if you have more, 60 times eggs, kosher eggs, versus the 60 and one egg of an eagle, it nullifies it. And because it's not imparting flavor, there's no chick in it, and it would be, so the 60-time rule would work.
So this is talking about when these eggs are cooked, right?
Yeah, they're mixed together, yeah.
Cooked, right?
Yeah, ACV, they challenge this from a bite of beitzim taheros shesholkon and beitzim tameris, kosher eggs that one cooked with tamei eggs. Kosher eggs that one cooked together with tamei eggs.
Rabbi, how do they know by looking at the eggs which one has a chick inside, which one is the egg?
This. You go like this all day. You go like this with the candle in.
No, there's a laser that tells them.
Yeah, but I used to work.
If you have no laser, how would you know?
They had a box, the light, and you sat there
They're
all
different
day.
shapes.
You looked at the eggs.
Same shape.
But
Bigger and small.
non-kosher has different shapes. We learn in the Gemara.
I'm an expert.
You are?
Yeah, I live in Violent. That makes me an expert.
Anyway, the point is that we have non-pure eggs that were mixed with pure eggs. If the kosher eggs contain an amount into which the tamei eggs impart a flavor, so the tamei eggs can impart flavor to the kosher ones, kulan asur, all the eggs are prohibited. Evidently, a non-kosher bird's egg does emit a flavor through cooking. So that answers your question about the cooking. So it's through cooking.
Once it cooks, it's finished.
And then it's imparting flavor, but if you have 60 times, it's not finished.
Right, so to be clear on the 60, if you have 60 eggs, that's not good enough, because that's only 59 to 1.
Right,
so
yeah,
you need
60
61
times, yeah.
eggs. Okay.
The Bais are dealing with an unhatched egg that contains a chick. Why does the Tana refers to it as tamei? The Gemara answers, Kevan de is be'efroach korelei tmea. Since it contains a chick and is prohibited for consumption, it calls it tamei. Right, the chick has to be shechted in order for you to be able to eat it. But since the latter segment of the Bais state, if eggs were cooked together and the unhatched chick was found in one of them, if the kosher eggs contain an amount into which the egg containing the chick imparts a flavor, kulon asuris. When we say benois and tam, meaning that there is less than 60 times. Nois and tam means it now imparting flavor. Kulon asuris, all the eggs are prohibited. Miklal dereisha, it is evident that in the Braisa's first segment, which refers to tome egg, the les by askinan. We see from here that most likely the first Braisa deals with an egg that does not have a chick in it. The les by askin, we are dealing with an egg of a non-kosher species that does not contain a chick. For if it says in number 7, for if the first segment is also dealing with an egg of a kosher bird or kosher bird species that contain an unhatched chick, the Braisa would be stating the same ruling twice. Pirushi kamafarish. So the Braisa's latter segment is explaining its first. The first segment is dealing with an egg of a kosher species that contains an unhatched chick. The latter segment of the Braisa is not making a second ruling, but is rather explaining the first ruling. The Braisa is to be read as follows: Beitzim taros v'shlokonim beitzim tmeis, kosher eggs that were cooked together with tame eggs. Im yesh ben benois and tam, if the kosher eggs contain an amount into which the tame eggs impart a flavor, kulon asuros, all the eggs are prohibited. Ketzad. When does this ruling apply? Kegon sheshlokom nimtzeh froch b'achas mein, where they were cooked, and then you find an unhatched chick was found in one of them.
Well, what is the difference if you find a chick or is an egg? If it's non-kosher and you mix, it will be tameh. If it imparts flavor, doesn't matter if you have a chick or egg. It's non-kosher.
When it's not imparting flavor if you don't have a chick in it.
If you have only egg, non-kosher.
So we're talking about an egg from a non-kosher a bird as opposed to an egg that has a blood spot in it?
No, an egg from a kosher bird that has a chick in it.
Or blood
You
spot.
cooked it with other eggs, it's imparting flavor. The other eggs, a tame egg that was cooked with other eggs, it's also impart flavors, but not the same way. It says, Hachinam mistabo, it is also reasonable to say that this latter segment is explaining that the first segment refers to an egg with an unhatched chick, rather than stating a new ruling. For if it should enter your mind that the first segment deals with an egg of a non-kosher species that does not contain a chick, then the latter segment of the Braisa would be superfluous, would be redundant. For now, if the Braisa has already taught in the first segment that even a prohibited egg, non-kosher egg, that does not contain a chick, renders other eggs prohibited through cooking. Then it's not necessary to tell me about an egg that has an unhatched chick, that it's prohibited. Obviously it's prohibited. You tell me that even if it doesn't have a chick, just for the fact that it's prohibited egg, it transmits or imparts flavor. The Gemara rejects the new argument, or the Gemara rejects the argument, imishum halo iria. If you wish to prove that the latter segment is explaining the first on the basis of this argument, there is no proof. But we could say that in fact the Tana is stating two distinct cases. First, it teaches the case of an egg of a non-kosher species. And then it states that the case of an egg of a kosher species that contain an unhatched chick. So you have two scenarios, two rulings. And as for your argument that it was unnecessary for the Tana to teach the second, because it can be inferred, you can learn it from the first. Tana Seifa legalui reisha. The Tana stated that the Seifa, the latter case, in order to clarify the meaning of the first case. So the second case comes to clarify the first one. Shelo toima reisha deis ba'efroach, aval leis ba'efroach shario. So that you should not say that the first case, which rules the other eggs prohibited, pertains only to whether the prohibited eggs contains a chick, but where it does not contain a chick, the other eggs are permitted. It tells you no, they're also prohibited, even if there is no chick, just for the fact that one of them is not kosher. Tana Seifa, that therefore, one second, Tana Seifa, the is by Froyach, the Tana therefore stated the latter case regarding an egg that contains a chick. Miklal, the Reisha, the less by Froach, to imply that the first case deals with something else, that is, with an egg of a non-kosher species that does not contain a chick, va'afilu achi asira, that even so it does not impart a flavor, and the eggs cooked with it are prohibited. So he says, one second, he says that we have the Reisha and the Seifa. One case is speaking about a non-kosher egg, and one case is speaking about kosher egg that has a chick inside and makes it really non-kosher. So if he would just write once, and he would tell you, why do I need the two cases? First, we were trying to say that the two cases are the same, and just one try to clarify the other. And then he says, no, they're really two different cases, but if I would just write one, you wouldn't know about the other one. In other words, if I would just tell you that an egg that has a chick inside makes the other eggs non-kosher, I wouldn't know about a non-kosher egg that makes the other eggs non-kosher, even if it's not imparting flavor. Not only that doesn't have a chick inside, even if you can tell me that it doesn't impart flavor because it has a membrane, it has the shell and so on, even then it making the other eggs non-kosher.
So why we need to know that if there is a chick or not? If the egg imparts flavor.
No, because the first case it tells me about a chick. It says if the Torah would just write about a chick, I would say that the only time it's not kosher when there is a chick inside. Yeah. But if it's just an egg without a chick, that it's non-kosher, the other eggs should be kosher. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it mentioned the second case as well to tell me that even though an eagle egg got mixed into kosher eggs, you maybe can argue that it's not imparting flavor, but still it's not kosher.
So the 60 eggs doesn't mevatel the
no, it will, but if you don't have it, if you don't have the 60, then it's.
Then
I think the question is.
I
think the question is with the 60, whether you have to have 60 without the unkosher egg, or whether the 60 can include the.
Possibly the Gemara will bring it up as well.
I think so.
All right.
The Gemara relates an incident involving nullification of prohibited substance. There was this olive's volume of chalev that fell into a pot of meat. So forbidden fat falls into a pot of meat. Sova Ravasi or Ravashi leshaure b'mai devola dikulo. Ravashi considered measuring for purposes of nullifying the chalev in 60, the amount of permitted food in the pot, and then adding to it that amount of permitted food which he estimated the pot had absorbed into its walls during the cooking. So he's going to make two evaluations. One is how much do I have in the pot? Number two, evaluation of how much the pot actually absorbed, the walls of the pot absorbed.
Do you have any idea, Rabbi, how they actually did that? Because that seems more complicated. You can measure the volume of what's in the pot, but how do you determine what's in the walls of the pot?
So I thought about they probably
We talk about
they
it.
probably hit it. If you take a pot that is you take out the content of the pot,
Right.
and then you boil it and you see what comes out.
Okay,
So I thought of when they would do it, you can try it a few times and then realize how much actually comes out.
okay, that's good.
So
Evaporate?
what?
Like in evaporation, you mean?
Like if any object today, when you put it in heat, stuff comes out. So say if the pot is empty and you put it, you heat it up, you see what comes out. If it sucks in something, then it brings it out. It says kevoloi, kach poltoi.
Yeah.
The same way that it sucks it in, the same way it will give it out. So once you put it in heat, you see how much it gives out. You kind of get an idea, more or less, of how much the wall's absorbed.
So, Rabbi, what could come out of a empty pot? You put boiling water, it boils to death. What could come out of it?
If let's say you
Trying
used,
to reach.
if you use the let's say you use the pot for fish or meat for a while, yeah.
Well, I washed it, I cleaned it, and
Right.
now
So
it's clean.
today with a dishwasher that it brings it's very hot. Most likely that it takes the flavors out. But in regular cases where they just washed it with soap, it is still, and if it's within the 24 hours, it still has some from the flavor that is embedded in the wall. It's hidden in the wall of the pot.
If anything, could be fume from
Fume.
the item that was before.
Yeah, so that's what it is. But in our case, he was trying to estimate how much these walls have, and also you have to remember, keep in mind also that the quality of pots that we have today and the quality of pots that they had then, it's two different levels.
Yeah.
Many times they use clay pots, and clay, they absorb a lot. They become heavy. They are being soaked. It's like soaking it in water, you feel it becomes heavy. Becomes heavier. Today, a regular pot, you put in water, you take it out, it doesn't take in anything.
Still, even with the stuff that we have
It's still absorbing, definitely. You can look at any used pot, you see there is a stain on it. The stains are not coming from nowhere. Something is being absorbed. It's not easy to clean pots. Even in the bottom of it, you see it's dark. It has.
So which parts will be not bolea?
All of them are bolea.
All of them, glass included.
Yeah, that's
Glass is
still,
bolea.
you have a lot of opinions that say you're not allowed to drink coffee from a glass cup if it was used in a non-kosher place. Why not? Why can't I just go to a bar and say I'm going to use your cup, but I'll put a hot liquid in it. Can't use it because the glass was used for coffee, non-kosher substances.
And probably was washed together with
Definitely.
with other cans that weren't kosher.
Even if the liquid that they put in, I told you this, Motzei Shabbos, I've been to a wedding and people were sipping wine with glass cups. Obviously the wine is not kosher. And if you take this cup and wash it and now put water in it, you never know. You maybe have some residue of the wine that you are. So it's a problem.
I thought that you can use the milk and meat in a glass plate. That's what I asked you a question.
No, we don't use it. No, because once if it's hot, it still absorbs. Meaning, if you take a meat plate that's glass, and you put a hot steak on it with its juice and everything, and then wash it, clean it, and use it for cheese, it's not good.
So you cannot use glass for both.
Yeah.
Because it does bolea.
We have a complete set for fleshik and a complete set for milchik. They never come together. They're always separate.
I always thought That's what I did. That's
No.
what I've been doing. Now he's telling me no.
No, don't use the glass for.
Halav and basar.
For
No.
both.
אמר לרבנו לרבה שיעתו דהיתר הבולה דאיסורא לא יבולה. Did the pot then absorbed only if you are going to evaluate how much the walls of the pot absorbed, then you should also evaluate the chaylev that it absorbed, the isura, not only the permissible substances, it also sucked in isu. Why? Just as the master assumes that some of the original permitted matter became absorbed into the walls of the pot, so too must he assume that a similar percentage of the original prohibited chaylev became absorbed there. Remember the case, we have chaylev that fell into a pot, to a meat pot. Rather, we always judge both the permitted and prohibited substances according to the ratio in the pot at the time they are brought before us. We're not measuring the walls. There was this certain half, this time it's half olive's volume. Before we said kazeisa was an olive's volume. Now we say, what happened if it was half olive's volume of chaylev that fell into a pot of meat? Sovar Mar Baravashi leshauri beslosin paged dezeisa. Mar Baravashi considered measuring and nullifying it in 30 half olives volumes. It's half an olive, so 30 instead of 60. That's what he thought of doing. Amar le'avua, his father said to him, Lava mina lachlo tezazel b'shiur derabona. He said, didn't I tell you not to make a joke, so to speak, about the prohibitions of the rabbis, about the measurements of the rabbis? Have I not told you, do not treat measurements involving rabbinic prohibition lightly? Ve'od, furthermore, this case actually involves the biblical prohibition. Half a measure of forbidden food is biblically prohibited. So Rav Ashi really telling his son that he was wrong on two accounts. First of all, even substances that are prohibited only rabbinically do not become nullified in less than 60. Okay, if it's a rabbinical, doesn't mean it can be nullified less than 60. And second of all, half olive's volume of biblically forbidden food, which is chaylev, is prohibited biblically, even if it's just half. Just because it's not a full kazai, it doesn't make it rabbon. It still remains midoraisa.
Is the only betel b'deraisa betel b'rav? Everything else aside from that is midorabanan, right?
Well, you have things that are like chometz that is not even botel b'elef.
Well, right, I understand that. I understand it, but something that is betel, is there any shear aside midoraita betel b'rav? Doesn't Shishim and Meah and Matayim all comes from the Rabbanim?
Right, but that's what he's saying to him. It's exactly the point that he's saying now. He's saying you should not, first of all, just if it's Rabbanon doesn't mean that it's less than 60, number one. And number two, if it's half a kazais,
Doesn't matter.
Since it's midoraisa, it doesn't change it to the Rabbanon. Just an olives of chaylev, is everyone agrees it's deoraisa. Half an olive, he says don't consider it by saying maybe 30 times, to nullify it by 30 times, you're implying that this is rabbanon. He says no, it's not rabbanon, it remains deoraisa.
We had that with the Gid Hanasheh, in other words, to eat a chazayas, or even if you ate the whole Gid Hanasheh that had a shear that was less than a chazayas, it's still asur, right?
Right. Less than a kazayis, but it was a whole Gid Hanasheh.
Right.
So this one, we're saying the half half of the kazayas, that you still need 60 kazayas to
Yeah.
mevatel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says half a measure of prohibited food is biblically prohibited. Amar Rav Shemen bar Abba, Amar Rav Idi bar Idi bar Gershom, Amar Levi bar Parto, Amar Rabbi Nachum, Amar Rabbi Birya mishum zokin echad. Rav Shemen bar Abba said in the name of Rav Idi bar Gershom, who said in the name of Levi bar Parta, who said in the name of Nachum, who said in the name of Rabbi Biryam, reported in the name of certain elder. Rabbi Yaakov Shmei, this elder was Rabbi Yaakov. The Nasi Amru, those in the house of the Nasi said, Beitza b'shishim, if a prohibited egg was cooked with 60 parts, asura, the other food is prohibited. B'shishim ve'achas, and this is answering your question. It was cooked with 61 parts, muteres. The other food is permitted. So shishim ve'achas, 61 parts. Amar Rabbi Zera Rav Shemen bar Abba, Re'eh she'atamati b'gvul eter. Rabbi Zera said to Rav Shemen bar Abba, consider now, by issuing this ruling, you are establishing a permitted boundary. Why? For the two giants of the generation could not explain the matter with certainty, namely Rabbi Yaakov Baridi ורבי שמואל בר נחמני, תרוויו משמי רבי יהושע ben Levi אמרו, Rabbi Yaakov Baridi and Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, both in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they said, Beitza b'shishim asura, a prohibited egg was cooked with 60 parts, asura. The other food is prohibited, b'shishim ve'achas, if it was cooked with 61 parts, muteres. The other food is permitted. V'ibalu, and they were asked, b'shishim ve'achas behadidido. Does this ruling you cite mean in 61 parts, including the egg? Or dilma levar mina, or does it perhaps mean in 61 parts besides the egg?
The non-kosher egg.
Veloy poshit, and the matter was not resolved. Rabbi Yaakov Baridi and Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani could not say which one Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi meant. Umar poshit lo mifshat, and Master resolved the matter. He states his ruling without equivocation. I'm not sure what the word means, which might lead people to assume that 61, including the egg, suffices.
You can put 62, that's it.
You should therefore have ended off your ruling by saying, but I do not know if the forbidden egg is included in the number 61 or not. By not doing so, you are misleading people.
You can put one more of it, that's it.
So what's
62.
what's the problem? You have one non-kosher egg and you have 60 against it.
You're
That's 60
counting.
against it. If you have 61 and you have one non-kosher egg and 60 kosher eggs.
He said, I do not know if the forbidden egg is included in the number 61.
Rabbi,
How do you count? Do you count
Yeah.
all of them, or you have to leave one out?
to equivocate the word you asked is to use ambiguous language so as to conceal.
Right,
the truth
it's not, okay.
or avoid
It's ambiguous language. It's like an attorney speaking. You're not really saying what you mean.
Now, what if you find a blood stain or a dot in one of the ones you're working
That egg
on?
is not good, but the rest of them are good. Doesn't impart flavor.
But if you have 60 and then one of those has the
Blood.
then does it count like 59?
You still have to check. You have to check. If you don't have the right amount, all of them are disqualified, whether they have blood in them or not. Are disqualified. But in general, an egg that has blood, our custom is to get rid of it. Some
Right, but
some
it
have
has
the
to-
custom.
it has to be-
Some say
it
you
has
take the
to-
blood out and it's still the egg is still good.
No, that's why I said our custom is to today.
Get rid of them.
Today you get rid of it.
We don't have
But
this
some-
problem nowadays.
If you buy free range, there's eggs today, if you try to be healthy, you buy organic eggs, you can sometimes find blood. If they,
brown one.
if they
Most
have,
likely you
if,
find on the brown one
if,
blood.
if they have roosters, in some places they have roosters, then they can have blood. If there's no roosters, they're not going to have blood. A hen doesn't need a rooster to lay eggs, but fertile eggs will come with a rooster.
And anyway, whenever we boil eggs, it's always an odd number, 3 or 5. So there's not an even number. So if there's a blood spot in one of them, there's 2 against the one egg with the blood spot, and the 2 aren't.
Right, Itmar, it was stated, Amar Rabbi Chelba, Amar Rav Huna, Beitza b'shishim v'yasur. Rabbi Chelba said the name of Huna, a prohibited egg cooked in 60 plus, means 60 plus itself, is prohibited. B'shishim v'achas v'imutera. In 61 plus itself, it is permitted. It says in number 20, explains the reasoning behind it. The reason for this is that eggs come in varying sizes. The large, you have the medium, you have the extra large eggs. But they're never exactly the same. If you put one egg on the scale and another egg, you'll see a little difference between the eggs. Accordingly, one who wishes to nullify an egg in 60 would have to measure each individual egg to ensure that the prohibited egg is not slightly larger than the average of the permitted eggs.
Put one
Because
more.
it's not.
Put 62, that's it.
No, that's
What do you mean? But if you
61.
cooked it without 62, now you're too late to put 62.
Put 63.
No.
The point is
You didn't know anything. You didn't know that you have a non-kosher egg.
Okay.
Your wife cooked 60 eggs, and then you find out that your son took out an egg from the street and he put it in there.
Okay.
It doesn't help me now to add eggs. She already cooked it. Your wife cooked 60 eggs, and
So
one of
better
them
this one.
one of them is not kosher.
So to
But-
nullify,
but-
instead of putting
I
one
can't
more-
nullify it now. It's already cooked.
Besides, there's a clause that it's aser levatel eser lechatchila.
Huh.
You can't, if you have less than 60, you can't pour into the pot. You say, now I'm going to pour into the pot, and now there's 63 against the iser. You can't add heter to
Now, he was telling you, let's say milk was poured into the Chullin Ch, and you're going to say, okay, I'm not sure, so I'm going to add more water. And now it's going to be nullified. You say you can't do it. After the fact, you can't do it. You have to look at the situation as it happened and analyze it now. Without adding more eggs or extracting eggs, there's no way to do it.
Okay.
Because you need to know if the reason for it is just you need to know if at the time that it was cooked, if it imparted flavor or not. If it had the power to be nullified, when we say nullified, meaning it was lemafre already nullified. Retroactively, it was nullified. Not that I'm nullifying it now. If the amount was there, that time was already nullified. Like we said about the drop that falls into a cup, and if it goes one at a time, as soon as it goes in, it's become nullified. And it's not counted. And so if I have permissible liquid, right, it's kosher liquid, and I'm pouring in non-kosher liquid into the cup, okay? So if I pour it in one shot, then it's a small amount, then it's being nullified. It's not being nullified, but if I put drop by drop, so I have 8 ounces and I'm putting a drop, every time I put a drop it's being nullified, and the moment that it's nullified it becomes part of the permissible content, and now it's nullifying the other drops that are coming in. So you say, well, the drops, the forbidden liquid that came in was, let's say, 5 ounces. You said, no, but every time it went in, it was nullified. So there's no really, you don't really have 5 ounces. On the spot they were nullified. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when this thing happened, you have to go back and see, was it nullified at that time or wasn't nullified at that time?
Okay.
I was thinking of something that works the other way. I see when someone has kosher bracha from the Rebbe, when they used to get kosher bracha from the Rebbe and they wanted to add to it, they wouldn't just pour in because that would be mevatel from the Rebbe's yain. So they pour a little bit in. So if there's this much yain from the Rebbe, they pour in less than that, then it fills up and then you pour in less. So in other words, it's like pour a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, so that the original amount, or what
So
you
they
add
would
to
pour
it
from
is
the
exact-
Rebbe's wine into regular wine. That's
No,
what you're
the other
saying?
way- the
They
other way
pour from
around. In other words, they have a bottle.
regular
they have-
wine and pour it into the Rebbe's wine?
Right, but they don't. They pour it in less than what was
In
originally
small amounts.
A smaller amount than what was in the Rebbe's wine. Because if you pour a whole bunch in,
You're
on top of the
nullifying
Rebbe,
it.
You're being nullifying the Rebbe's wine. If you pour less than that, even if it increases to 2 ounces, and then you pour in less than 2 ounces.
Same
so-
idea we just said. Okay, so Aud also lekam de Rabbi Gamliel bar Rabbi. There was this person who came before Rabbi Gamliel bar Rabbi to inquire about a prohibited substance that had been cooked with permitted food. Prohibited substance that had been cooked with permitted food, measuring 45 times the prohibited substance. Okay? Omar le Rabban Gamliel said to him, Abba lo yishir ב-47. Father would not measure, meaning nullify, a prohibited flavor in 47. V'ani ashor ב-45. Shall I measure in 45? Certainly not. Why? What does that mean, 47? So he writes in 21, as explained previously, the rule of nullification in 60 was not established until later in the Amoraic period.
Right,
That's what you
the same
said.
thing you said it.
Yeah, until the later in the Amoraic period, until then, it seems there was no uniform standard, with different authorities using different ratios. At any rate, Rabban Gamliel said that using 45 was not even in consideration. Even at that time, 45 was not in consideration. There was this person who came before Rabbi Shimon bar Rabbi to inquire about a prohibited substance that had been cooked with permitted food, measuring 43 times the prohibited substance. Omar Rabbi Shimon said to him, my father did not measure 45 and you want me to measure 43. There are not 30 measures of permitted food present. The reason Rabbi Chia did not permit the food because they didn't have shloishim. They didn't have 30 against the prohibited substance. Implied by this that if they had there been 30, we would have measured. Come. Where's Isaac? Where is he? Oh. Amar Rabbi Chanina Guzma. Rabbi Chia response was made with sarcasm. He meant to say, why do you bother me with this question? It's not even 30 times the prohibited substance, so how can I begin to consider nullifying it? The Gemara up until this point has followed the halachically accepted ruling that prohibited substances which are cooked with permitted substances become nullified in 60. This ruling, however, was established as the law at the end of the Amoraic period. The earlier Amoraim, though, disputed this matter, as the Gemara proceeds to present. Omar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi Mishum bar Kaporo. Rabbi Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, who said in the name of Bar Kaporo, Kol Isurin shebaTorah b'shishim. All prohibited substances mentioned in the Torah are nullified in 60. Omar lefono Rabbi Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yitzchak said before Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Atayimken, my teacher, do you say this? Do you say thus? Do you report in the name of Yeshua ben Levi, in the name of Bar Kapara, that prohibited substances become nullified in 60? Ach Yomar Avasi, Yomar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Mishum Bar Kapara, Kol Yisurin Shabbatera b'Meya. All prohibited substances mentioned in the Torah are nullified in 100. And both of them derived their respective opinions from the cooked foreleg of the Nazir's ram offering. What happened over there? It says, and the Kohen shall take the zoya, the foreleg, b'sheila, cooked. It was taught in a baisa, b'sheila, the b'sheila foreleg, and b'sheila l'shleim. When it says the word b'sheila, it means that nothing other than whole, complete.
Does that mean with the animal?
And b'sheila ela shleima. It says in a certain language, the Baisa does not identify which the word b'sheila means. Whole. The word b'sheila means whole. The Tanakama maintains that the Torah is using the term b'sheila in the sense of its meaning in that language. In that language, b'sheila, it's b'shela, with what it has. Accordingly, when the Torah states, and the Kohen shall take the b'shela foreleg, it means to say that the foreleg should be whole rather than sliced into pieces. Shela. So that's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and b'shela shenisbash le'mayil. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is a different interpretation, and he says, what does b'shela means? Shenitbash lo ima ayil, other than that the foreleg was cooked together with the ram. The chul alma ba'ad de ayil mavashla. Everyone agrees, Tanakama and Rabbi Shimon agrees that the foreleg is cooked together with the rest of the ram in the same pot. The disagreement is only regarding the following point. Tanakama holds mechatech lo v'adam mevashla. First he cuts it up and then he cooks it.
Cuts it up or cuts it off of the animal?
No. He says that one first cuts off the foreleg from the ram. From the ram, yeah, and then he cooks it together with the rest of the ram in the same pot. Umar Sava Rabbi Shimon Sava mevashelo v'adam mechatech le. One first cooks the foreleg with the rest of the ram and then cuts it off. If everyone agrees that one first cuts off the foreleg, like Tanakama, from the rest of the ram and then he cooks it. However, one master, Rabbi Shimon, holds that after he cuts off the foreleg, he cooks it together with the rest of the ram in the same pot. While the other master, Tanakama, holds that he cooks the foreleg in a different pot. So there's really argument, what is their machlokes all about? Is the machlokes about first cooking, cutting and then cooking, or cooking and then cutting it? Or alternative interpretation is that everyone agrees that he cuts it off and then he cooks it, but one said he cooks it in the same pot and one says he cooks it in a different pot. In accordance with the first interpretation of the dispute between Tanakam and Rabbi Shimon, which is cutting and then cooking, or cooking and then cutting, so in accordance with the first interpretation of the dispute between Tanakam and Rabbi Shimon, according to everyone, and in accordance with the second interpretation of the dispute, according to Rabbi Shimon Yochai, it emerges that the foreleg, which is prohibited for non-Kohanim, was cooked together with the rest of the ram in one pot and imparted its flavor to it.
So then how can the non-Kohen eat it?
Right. Thus the fact that the rest of the ram remains permitted for consumption by its Israelite owner proves that the prohibited flavor emitted by the ram becomes nullified in the rest of the ram.
Okay.
It's one foreleg in the comparison or the ratio is a whole animal. Then the one who says
this part of the only the Kohen can eat, it's taref for us, considered taref,
it's
or you just can't eat, but it's not taref.
it's a taref, it's holy.
It's just like truma, right?
Yeah.
We can't eat it because
I
it
don't
belongs
trade
to
this.
the
I
cook.
think usher is better than trade.
Yeah, that's the question.
Usher is different than trade.
Asur is
Well,
meaning
worst
it's
is the same.
asur meaning it's locked. Like Tanya said, that you're unable to elevate it. Regular food you can elevate. The level of your neshama can elevate regular food, and a kohen can elevate also food that is coaching. Man Doma B'Shishim is the one who says that the prohibited substance became nullified in 60. Sovar Boso Vatzomes Ba'ade Boso Vatzomes Sharina holds that we measure the meat and bones of the foreleg against the meat and bones of the ram. V'avel B'Shishim, it is a mixture of 1 in 60. Man Doma B'Meya, the one who says that the prohibited substances became nullified in 100. Sovar Boso Ba'ade Boso Misharin, and holds that we measure the meat of the foreleg against the meat of the ram. V'avalei b'mea, it is a mixture of 1 in 100.
So not the bones,
Right.
only the meat.
So one opinion says b'shishim. The one who said b'shishim, he said that we measure the meat and bones of the foreleg against the bones of the ram, and then you have 1 in 60. And the one who says that prohibited substances become nullified in 100, he says that we measure the meat of the foreleg against the meat of the ram without the bones involved. Thus, it is a mixture of 1 in 100. Both Amoraim agree that the ratio of nullification for all forbidden substances is derived from the case of the cooked foreleg. Umi alfin al mino. But do we indeed derive the law for other prohibited substances from the case of the cooked foreleg? Originally, I think we said that it was a scenario with a nazir.
There was a Nazareth ram.
Right.
So we said that the leg, one leg, that the
We made a statement in the name of Bar Kapara that Kol Isurin Shabbatero B'Mea, all prohibited substances mentioned in the Torah are nullified in 100. Okay? And then the Gemara says the basis of the dispute. And he says, where did we learn it? We learned it from Zroya B'Sheila. What is Zroya B'Sheila? Both of them derived their respective opinions only from the cooked foreleg of the Nazir's ram's offering. If the ram is, the Nazir is not necessarily a Kohen, and if it's cooked together with the meat in the same pot, the argument between Tanakam and Rabbi Shimon was only in regarding to whether I cook it and then put it together in the same pot, or we first, if I cut it and then cook it, or cook it and then cut it. But regardless, it's together in the same pot. So one is what happens with the foreleg? Who would get the foreleg? The foreleg was given to the Nazir. It says if you look at note 25, it says it says the Torah, Numbers 6:13, commands the Nazir to bring a ram as a shlomim offering at the conclusion of his Nazir's period. After the ram is cooked, the right foreleg of the shlomim is waved and is then given to the Kohen. The foreleg is given to the Kohen as his priestly portion, and the rest of the meat is eaten by its Israelite owner, like any other shlomim. As the Gemara will proceed to explain, Rabbi Chia bar Abba and Rav Asi hold that the foreleg was cooked together with the rest of the ram. Consequently, the foreleg, which is prohibited for consumption by a non-Kohen, imparted its flavor to the rest of the meat, of the ram that was cooked with it. Nevertheless, the meat is consumed by Israelites. This teaches that the ratio between the foreleg and the rest of the ram is sufficient for effecting nullification. The two opinions cited here as to whether nullification requires 60 or 100 are contingent on how the ratio between the foreleg and the rest of the ram is calculated, as the ensuing Gemara will explain.
I don't understand something which I didn't understand it before. Is it only a svara to say that the only bittul b'deraisa is 100 is 100? Because we know there's bittul b'rov. We know there's bittul b'shishim. How could is that just that particular svara from that Tana that says that all bittul b'deraisa is 100 and only 100? Is that what he's saying? Because we know we have other measurements, and I thought,
Well, he's speaking about biblical nullification.
No.
We're not going into.
No, but biblical nullification, we know there's batel barov, and then the other.
The question is what batel barov means. You can argue that batel barov is 2 against 1, or you can say the batel barov is 60 times, or 100 times, 1,000 times. The question is how you. What do you consider right? And when you say the majority, what the majority needs to constitute, it's for example in the laws of the Sanhedrin, one is not sufficient to, if you have 23 dayonim, and we learned that if it's 12 and 11, is it roiv? Is it sufficient roiv to kill somebody, or you have to have 13? Right, you have to have 2. But why? There's already a roiv, the majority. So it's not so simple what a roiv means. With eggs we're doing it that way, but it's not. The point is, biblically, do I need 100 or it's 60?
Okay.
That's really what you have to remember. This part, if I calculate the bones, that means it's 60. If I don't calculate the bones, just the meat, it's.
Now I've got a question. Okay, now the Nazir situation, it seems to me to be more unique than a regular stomp situation. Here the Nazir, to end the Naziris, part of the avoda is he has to eat the foreleg of this ram.
No, he doesn't eat the foreleg.
What is he?
No, he eats the rest of it. The Kohen is the foreleg.
And the Kohen gets the foreleg. So he got this ram, and then he got the foreleg.
The problem is that it's all cooked together. So the foreleg is imparting flavor to the rest of the meat. So how the Nazir is supposed to eat the rest of the meat?
So in other words, we're saying this is an exception. This is not the general rule.
Otherwise, why would you mention specifically Nazir Shlomim?
Right.
All Shlomim should be a problem, but this is a specific one that was cooked together.
Right, and this is a whole mitzvah. It's not like I don't know. We're going to go to the restaurant.
So really, the Nazir, you can say that the Nazir gets some of the kedusha of the Kohen. Right. Because the Kohen is eating the foreleg, he's eating the rest of the meat, even if it's nullified, right? Even if it's nullified, you can say there's more meat over here. It's still some flavor is there.
So we get the kedusha from the Rebbe's kos, right? From kosher bracha.
Yeah, certainly.
Label used to have that. He may still have it.
The Gemara says, Umi alfinan minot. Both Ameroim agree, however, that the ratio of nullification for all forbidden substances is derived from the case of the cooked foreleg. Umi alfinan minot. So the Gemara says, but do we indeed derive the law for other prohibited substances from the case of the cooked foreleg? Vatanya. Why? It was taught in a Bais in reference to the Nazir's ram. Zeu heter rabo miklal isu. This is a permitted. This is a permit that is an exception to the general rule of prohibition.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. I feel that.
You got it.
Zeu lemautei mai. Now, the Braisa's expression, this is, comes to exclude what? Lav lemaute kol isurin shebatorah. This does it not come to exclude all other prohibited substances mentioned in the Torah? I.e., is the Braisa not saying that the case of the cooked foreleg is unique in that the nullification of its flavor in the Nazir's ram does not serve a prototype for other prohibited substances? The Gemara answers, if the Braisa's statement that the Nazir's ram is unique is relevant only according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Omar min b'mino lo batil, who says that a kind mixed with its own kind does not become nullified. You have to remember this is it's a serious rule in the laws of kashrus. Min b'minoi lo batil. This according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, which means that Rabbi Yehuda maintains that the concept of nullification is restricted to mixtures consisting of two different kinds of substances, min v'sheinu minoi, a kind mixed with a like kind, min b'minoi, however, is not subject to nullification. And the Gemara in Menachos 22b, which we learned before, discusses it. Hence, the case of the Nazir's ram, where we apply the law of nullification, even though the prohibited and permitted components are of the same kind, they are both the ram's meat, is unique in this respect. It's a unique situation. Kamash Malan Da'ocha Batil, the Brisa informs us that there is a unique case where a prohibited substance becomes nullified even in its own kind. The Gemara asks, "V'ligmar minei," but let us derive from the Nazir's ram that the mixture of a kind with its own kind are in fact subject to nullification. The Gemara answers, "Gali rachmono v'lokach midam hapor midam hasoyer," the merciful one revealed. Otherwise, in the verse, and he shall take from the blood of the bull and from the blood of the he-goat. Now, let us see. Tarvayu ba'ad adodininu. Both bloods are mixed together with one another. Veloy botle. Yet they do not become nullified. What happened? He takes damapor and he takes damasoyer. He takes the blood of the bull and the blood of the he-goat.
The blood of the poor has more blood.
Right?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Both bloods are mixed together with one another. Veloy botle. They maintain their identity.
Okay.
Yeah, they do not become nullified. Evidently, a kind does not become nullified in its own kind.
That is for the korban, or for stricha. This is not for.
Why? Because they're the same. They're also blood, even though they're blood of a bull and
No,
blood
I
of a
got
goat.
that.
They're still blood.
Yeah.
And accordingly, the law of nullification in 60 or 100, which we derive from the Nazir's ram, applies only to mixtures of different kinds where nullification is applicable. So nullification is not applicable so far, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when it comes to min b'minoi, if it's the same kind.
When you say same kind, okay.
Same kind is meat with meat.
A behema
Blood
and
is
a
blood.
behema.
Right.
Right.
If you have 10 pieces of kosher meat, a cow, meat taken from a cow, and another piece
Yeah.
from a
lamb.
cow, no, cow that was treifa. It's
Okay.
min b'minoi. It's the same meat. Just one cow came out treifa, one cow
Right,
it came out
okay,
kosher.
so there's
It's not a substance of. It's not a pig, for example, that you put in.
Okay, fine. So then the road, but then you got nine, like we said the other day with the.
So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's going to be an issue because it's min b'minoi, and min b'minoi loy bottle. It's the same as.
You find a piece of meat on the street, and there's 10 butchers that are kosher, one goy, and he said, okay, so then we're going to say it's kosher.
Right.
Now you're saying
That's according to Rabbi Yehuda, I'm saying. I'm saying according to Rabbi Yehuda, min b'minoi, also the case that you mentioned is not exactly the same because you're not having in front of you 9 pieces. You're having 9 butcher stores and you found the meat. So you assume that most likely, chances are that it came from the kosher shop.
right.
But in this case, you have 9 pieces. The case that I'm bringing up, if you have 9 pieces of meat in front of you or 10 pieces of meat and one of them came from a pig stir, then you can argue that it's min she'eino minoi, right? Min b'she'eino minoi.
Right.
But if it's the same meat of a cow, same type of meat, just one was treif and one was not treif, what do you do then?
Yeah.
I was
That's-
just thinking of something else.
What do you
It
do?
it becomes more complicated. Here, it's meat. When you're talking about liquids, it becomes even more complicated when you have mean b'mino, right?
But it's
Because
just,
at least with the meat, in other words, you have separate entities, right? When you have liquids,
but the liquids also
Like
helps you
Chuma
for
wine.
nullification. The liquid can also help you with the volume.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
what they say. You
yeah.
have one case, a cask of glacier wine, and you got nine.
It's min b'minoi. That's the same. It's the same. It's wine and wine.
So what do you do?
According to Rabbi Yehuda, you can't nullify it.
You cannot.
You cannot.
So
Yeah.
that wipes out all the other cases.
I
Yeah.
thought,
Put in
the
the
case,
trash,
I
everything?
thought there's cases like that. In one case where you would take one barrel and throw the one barrel away, and the stuff. In other words, and say maybe that one barrel.
That you
is
threw
possible.
away. That was the prohibited one.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the eggs, Rabbi. If you have 61 eggs, it's all eggs, so it doesn't nullify.
According to Rabbi Yehuda, that would be a problem. Yeah.
If you have three pieces of fat and one and you know that one is chaylev and the other two are shuman, are you allowed to even eat one piece since you know that it's two against one, but you don't know which one? I think there's a whole thing in the Gemara where it says that you make a whole calculation, that you say this piece that I'm eating now, I'm assuming that it's shuman and not chaylev. And then you can eat the second piece the same way, but you can't eat the third piece
One of them has to be ruled out.
because one of them has to be ruled out.
So the Gemara says, "Umay chozis de gomrinon me'aich." But what reason did you, Rabbi Yehuda, see to say that we derive the law for mixtures of a kind with its own kind from that case of the mixed bloods, and thereby conclude that a kind is not nullified in its own kind? Ligma me'ai, let us derive the law for such mixtures from this case of the cooked foreleg, and conclude that mixtures of a kind with its kind are subject to nullification. The Gemara says, "Chidushu mechidush lo gamrinan." The case of the cooked foreleg is a novelty, and from a novelty we do not derive laws. Like we said, it's not a prototype. Ihachi, if it is so that the case of the foreleg is a novelty, is a chidush, from which we may not derive other cases. Lemea v'shishim nami lo ligma. With respect to nullification in 100 or 60, we should also not derive other cases from it because it's a chidush. So the Gemara answers, "Atu anan lekula gamrinan lechumra, atu anan lekula gamrinan." We then deriving a leniency lechumra gamrinan? Why we are deriving a stringency? Demideoraiso beruba botil. For under the general principles of biblical law, a substance is nullified in a majority.
Okay, good.
The derivation from the cooked foreleg therefore teaches us a stringency, that nullification of prohibited substance or flavor that blends with a permitted substance requires 60 or 100. There's a whole discussion on it over here in 26. So I'll just read the first point. It says, "If not for the derivation from the cooked foreleg, a prohibited flavor exuded into a permitted substance would fall under the general rules of nullification under biblical law. That is, it would become nullified in a majority, as derives from the verse in Exodus 23:2, "You shall follow acharei rabim lehatois." Right? You shall follow the majority. This is in fact the law in cases in which a forbidden piece become confused with two or more permitted pieces, so that each piece while not identifiable as to whether it is forbidden piece or one of the permitted ones, stands alone. For example, if a piece of nevela beef become confused with two pieces of kosher beef, and we cannot tell which piece is which, the nevela becomes nullified in the majority, and all three pieces are permitted. In the absence of any other derivation, we would have applied this same rule of nullification in a majority to where a prohibited food imparted its flavor into a permitted food as well. Such mixtures are known as lach b'yovesh, wet in dry, or lach b'lach, wet in wet. The derivation from the cooked foreleg teaches us that where the prohibited substance imparted its flavor to a permitted substance, it is more stringent than when they merely become mixed up as individual pieces, and it does not become nullified except in 60 or 100.
I
So,
just can't see how we could eat all three pieces.
because
We already said that that one piece is nevela, right?
right.
So you could eat two pieces and leave the other piece. Why does it say that you could eat
According
all
to
three
the
pieces?
according to the dry rule of Acher Rabbi Menashe, because otherwise it's either you can eat anything,
Right.
or you can eat it, or you can eat it all. Because who are you kidding? By living one, it's not identifiable. By living,
But each one of them is a suffix. In other words, each time you eat one of
Why
them,
you
it's
can
a
eat?
suffix.
right.
Should not eat neither 1, 2, and 3.
The Torah says, "Acharei Rabbi Menashe," you have to follow the majority.
So if that's the
It's like I
case,
say, if Beit Shammai is right, why am I following Beis Hillel?
so if that's the case, like Rabbi Mahatos, then the majority is 2. So you should be able to eat 2. Why can you eat 3?
Why? Why do you need the also? Why do you need the
If
60
you know,
times?
if all three pieces, if there's a suffix that maybe there's a piece of nevela and there's 2 pieces of kosher, but if you know for sure that one piece is vadai, nevela, if you eat all 3, unless you're going to say that third piece is already mevatel, like a drop of milk falling into a pot of meat. So even though it did have a metzias of being asur, now it's mevatel.
Yeah, he says it clearly. This is in fact the law in cases in which forbidden pieces become confused with 2 or more permitted pieces, so that each piece, while not identifiable as to whether it is forbidden or the permitted, stands alone. And he writes that it's yovesh b'yovesh. Piece of nevela beef become confused with 2 pieces of kosher beef, and we cannot tell which piece is which. The nevela becomes nullified in the majority, and all 3 pieces are permitted.
So in other words, it's the same way if the milk falls into the meat pot, right? And there's shishim, even though the milk is still there, and we can't extract the meat.
No,
we
that's
can
a different case, because it's not yovesh b'yovesh. You have to
Right.
stick into yovesh
Okay.
b'yovesh. The moment that it gets into wet in dry or wet in wet, then it becomes you have to go into the rule of 60
Right.
or 100.
Right.
Because imparts flavor.
Yeah. But it says the Ran finds difficulty with the Gemara's derivation. How do we see from the case of the cooked foreleg that nullification of an exuded flavor requires 60 or 100? Granted that the rest of the ram is 60 or 100 times the forbidden foreleg, there's still no indication that nullification would not have been taken effect had the ratio been less than that. Okay, so one even argues what happened if it was less. There's no indication that it wouldn't be nullified. Ran therefore, in the opinion that the derivation from the cooked foreleg is not an actual derivation, but merely an asmachta, a biblical allusion to a rabbinic stringency. Okay. Let's see. Atu anan lekula gamrinan lechumra gamrinan de midoraisa beruba botil. The derivation from the cooked foreleg therefore teaches us a stringency that nullification of prohibited substance or flavor that blends with a permitted substance requires 60 or 100. An alternative answer to the question raised above, the Braisa's statement that the Nozir's rem is unique, appears to contradict Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi's position that it serves as a prototype for the nullification of other prohibited substance. Rava Omar, lo initzricho ela letam ke'ikar. The Braisa's statement that the Nozir's rem is unique is relevant only with respect to the principle that flavor is equivalent to substance. And regarding these three words, or two words, flavor is equivalent to substance, there's also a long commentary on it and debate. Flavor is equivalent to substance because really you can buy a salmon, cook it, and I can buy a salmon, cook it, and one has spices and it was cooked in a certain way, maybe it was smoked. So it's the same salmon, but one is so really flavor is substance or not? We have 5 ounces of salmon here, and I have 5 salmon. Both have the same substance, different flavor.
Yeah.
Am I considering the flavor as substance or not?
Wow. They go far. Wow.
But it makes a big difference because you see that people will be willing to pay for seasoned food much more than would pay for non-seasoned
Lox is more
food.
expensive than a piece of
Imagine
salmon,
you would come
but
to a
it's the same
restaurant
as
and they
the
give you a
same
dish and they say, you season it yourself. Giving you a plain salad, you season it. I give you this plain
You go to a
buffet.
yeah, or you like, look, what do they have an aroma? They
Yeah,
have
the
whole-
ready food is
they have
much
the
more
whole-
expensive.
They have the whole tables there.
Rav Omar lenitzricho latam ke'ikar. If the Braisa's statement that the Nozir's rem is unique is relevant only with respect to the principle that flavor is equivalent to substance. Imagine, flavor is equivalent to substance. The kochim also, for generally with respect to kochim, the flavor of forbidden item is as prohibited as the substance of that item itself. As prohibited. Kamash malan de'ocha shori. The Braisa therefore informs us that here is a unique case in which a flavor of kochim is permitted.
I was just thinking of something. I think it says in the Tanya that here for Taiva, we're thinking about doing it.